to win this Josh Hayes autographed hat. It says first place. He wore it on the podium at VIR when he won the race, and in the interview. Tell us what is incredibly difficult to do for 23 laps. Josh tells us. Email us at OnTheThrottle.TV. No, email us at OnTheThrottle.TV@gmail.com, and you might win this hat.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Josh Hayes now. It's another good weekend. Not win yesterday, but win today. So I was kind of thinking about that in terms of the championship, where you can't throw the bike away trying to win every time. You have to take what comes to you and win it when you can. Is that how you approach it?
It really has not been the approach. The approach has been try to win everything that you can. But that being said, I feel that when I look at last year and I compare to the way I'm riding to my full potential this year, where last year I was much more aggressive. My habits were a bit different. I was learning and testing myself on a regular basis. And this year, I felt pretty good through Ohio. I felt pretty good about Road America, Laguna. I got second at Ohio. I felt great about my ride. Got second at Laguna, and I was just horrified because I knew I'd not ridden my best. I'd not ridden my potential, and I gave away a 1.5-second gap. And just, even when I'm racing for the win, I wasn't putting out the effort that I knew I was capable of doing. So with the help of my team, figuring out why I couldn't in some areas because of the motorcycle, and then just going back and revisiting some of my mindset from last year, and I was able to come up with something better, and hopefully this is the beginning of getting myself back on the right track, of getting to some winning ways and upping my game to what they can't touch. So.
Is it a mental thing, or is it a technique on the bike, or what are we mostly talking about?
Totally, everything's in your head. It's really tough to push yourself when you can ride just safe enough that you're not going to make a mistake and not going to fall down and race for the win. Where's the incentive to take the risk and go the extra mile? But the payoff for it was great. Look at today. You get a 7-second win, and you just it felt so much easier than yesterday because my focus was in the right place. The race went by so fast. I was like, man, this really happened fast. Like, laps counted down so quickly. Yesterday was just a long race, and a lot of work for myself trying to strategize how to race with guys and just being fast in the right spots. Maybe I'll give them this spot, but he can't pass me here, so he can't pass, if I do this right and that right, and playing strategy and making them ride my race. I got to go back to racing. If I race against me, because of the pressure I put on myself, these boys can't touch me because I expect so much of myself that it doesn't matter how good they ride. I expect more. And so if I race against myself these boys aren't going to be able to ever catch me. I'll just take my game to another level, and that's what I'm trying to figure out how to do again.
Yesterday, talking about coming down the hill onto the final turn, going onto the front straight, you were talking about being on the gas in areas where people aren't on the gas, they're already braking. Is that the kind of thing that you're talking about, where you've got the mindset to will yourself to make that happen so that you can get that kind of drive?
Well, it's more a matter of, honestly, I think it's more a matter of understanding physics and how the motorcycle works, and trying to learn how to get the most out of the motorcycle. I think, we all do it to a certain degree. What we're doing isn't that much different, but there's a couple of key things that sometimes it's counterintuitive. It's like, it's hard when you're going downhill and you think you're going too fast. I'm going to run off the track to pick the throttle up anyway, because you know the physics of it is it's going to open the bike up, it's going to settle the bike down, help you turn a little bit more. It actually helps the geometry of the motorcycle to turn more. And where you look has a lot to do with that. If I look at that outside curb, I promise you, I'm going to hit the outside curb, I'm going to run off the track, I'm going to tuck the front because I'm looking right in front of me. And so it's funny, people say, well, how do you go so fast? Sometimes I'm like, I close my eyes, dude. It's not so much I close my eyes, but I definitely, I'm scared of that, so I look over here.
Right.
That does happen. And you know, that particular section of this racetrack, the last turn coming on the front straight, is a lot like that. I don't look down because I know if I do, I'm going to create my own problem. And if I can just make myself look up racetrack and focus on where I want to go, the bike seems to do it pretty well.
Okay, going into turn one, I was telling you before we turned the camera on that I was watching where your brake marker was compared to everybody else, and you're braking significantly deeper than everybody else. Is that a mental thing where you're racing against yourself and that's how you're pushing yourself to that brake marker? Because you don't know where everybody else is braking.
No, I don't. You know, yesterday in the race, I saw Tommy had kind of figured out how to get in there pretty deep, but it's a couple of different things. One is we made some changes through the night. One of those changes really improved our braking performance. I felt that the bike definitely got stopped better, and I felt that listening or how I felt and how things went during the race. Yesterday, I said, you know what, I'm leaving something on the table out there. Like, I know I'm capable of a little bit more. So the deal is, I'm willing to go that extra step and put it out there where I'm right on the edge every lap. If I've got a brake marker that's like, man, if I mess this up one time, I'm going off in the dirt or running wide. It's going to cost me a little bit. But I know I can go to here and make it. It's hard to do that for 23 straight laps. It really is hard to focus enough to do that for 23 straight laps, not just in turn 1, but in turn 3, turn 4, turn 7 under the bridge, turn 14, coming down the hill. You know, it's like for 30 straight minutes, it is 100% focus on what you're trying to do. And so last year, I felt like I was doing that better than I'm doing it the last couple of races this year, and I'm trying to get myself back to that. And that's what today was more about than anything. Today felt more like a practice session than a race, because I was practicing how I want to finish the rest of the race season, if that makes sense to you.
You talked about in the press conference going back to some settings from last year on the bike, and at Laguna you had two very different bikes. How did that work out? Were you blending it, or did you just finally choose one of them?
Oh, well, we've actually been doing it all season. You know, we've gone to, what have we done, 7, 8 races now? We've gone through this process of 2 different bikes at probably 4 or 5 of the events that we've showed up with 2 bikes, ride them in the first practice, decide which one we think has the most potential, and pick one and go a direction on that. And a lot of the times we're trying to blend 2 things together. This bike does this well, this bike does this well. How do we get a bike that does both? And we showed up here with a completely different and new setting than what we raced last year. And we just weren't sure, so we wanted to use this opportunity to see. So we went back to last year's settings, and I instantly said, wow, I have more grip, I have more control, I have this, and this. But I had, on a bike that didn't feel very good to me, I had gone the same lap time with a lot of issues. So what were we given here and there? So let's find out how to have these things but make me more comfortable, or make the bike perform the way this one does it. This one turns a little better, this one has more grip. How do we come up with this combination to come up with a good motorcycle? I think we were still probably leaned a little bit more towards last year's settings than we did this year's, but I think we learned some things that hopefully we'll go to the next racetrack and we will be able to take our game up another step again. I mean, yesterday's race, the fastest times during the race were over half a second slower than last year. But the race time, the time it took to run the race, last year I was able to do a couple fast laps, get out to a gap, and then slow the race down and just manage the gap and ride around and finish the race with 7-8 seconds to spare. This year, we kept the pace higher throughout the race and ended up actually being like 7 seconds faster on Saturday than I was last year, even though the fastest laps weren't there. Today, I was able to go the same fast laps that I did last year, more of them, and keep the pace higher, and I finished 10 seconds faster than yesterday's race. Pretty significant. That's half a second a lap over the course of a race. So that's what we just keep working on, is keep working on building a pace that's faster than everyone else that they can't run, wear Tommy down, whatever. Last season, we were able to do that a bit better. This year, we've been faster everywhere on a setting that's a lot different. So it's really hard to just go to last year's settings, because we know we're faster with this. Why? We have to come up with these different combinations of why and try to keep raising the level of our game. It's a tough thing to come up with, is a feel of what I want the motorcycle to feel like, how I ride a motorcycle, being able to steer the thing with the back of the bike and having this confident feeling, but still get the bike to turn as good as a bike that doesn't feel that good but just works better sometimes. So it's been tough. It's been playing it's a game. These super bikes are so complicated. They have so many things to them. It's so much easier to get it wrong than get it right, and then also just being creative to come up with fresh ideas. So I'm fortunate I have a very good team behind me with Lessing and Jim Roach and Steve Rounds, Jeff Meyer, Tom Howerson getting in there and helping out. And, we have a really good core team, and even Vito with the computer is crucial to every one of these guys and making sure that the bike runs right every time we go out there. And I have a great team that's really helping me put that thing together and try to get a bike that I can get the most out of, and then it's just my job to make sure I get the most out of myself.
Okay, then looking forward to New Jersey, where we go next. Will this same kind of thing continue? You're going to take a bike that had New Jersey's setting last year and then kind of progress what you came away with this time?
Quite honestly, the bike that we raced at New Jersey last year was identical to here. Very, very little changes. It was a setting that we basically finished the season up with the last 3 or 4 races. And we will probably show up. I'm not exactly sure. I know we will show up with the race bike that we raced here. And we will start with probably that. And we will look at the data and probably come up with some fresh ideas. Okay, well, if we had another session or two here, we had a few things that we wanted to try. So we'll look at our notes from last year and see what some of our trouble areas were. See if some of the things that we found in between will address some of those areas, and then try to take it another step on top of that. And this is pretty late in the season for me to be changing the motorcycle as much as we are right now. Usually by this time of year, we're leaving the bike alone, but the guys have done a fantastic job of helping me continue to develop the bike, and that's why we're able to go faster. We're on the same tires, but we're able to go faster than last year. And I'm up in my level this much, so Tommy and those guys have upped their level that much, but we're going to 2 tracks that are strong Tommy Hayden tracks, and Ben was really good at Barber last year on the podium twice early in the season, but I feel good about it. I feel confident that I have a different machine than I had at Barber last year, and I love having the pressure of the championship going in there, and that's racing, man. That's what I like doing. So I'm excited and ready to go racing.
All right, well, congratulations on a win today and a good weekend, and we'll look for more to come at New Joshi.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Josh Hayes, ladies and gentlemen.